طويل الشوق يبقى في اغترابي فقير في الحياة من الصحاب ومن يأمنك يا دنيا الدواهي تدوسين المصاحب في التراب.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a very, very important concept, and it's can everyone whose mics are not muted, can you all please make sure that your mics are muted so that the recording doesn't get interrupted as well. So there's still people joining. Just make sure that whoever joins in, you just carry on muting your mics, inshallah. I think what I do need to do is make another person admin so that there's somebody who can do that while I'm still speaking. So my time is limited, and I just want to I just want to press on, inshallah, and convey this concept and leave you guys to continue your ibadah for the rest of the evening. I don't know about all of you, but this little injection of reminder, it is helping me get through the night and stay awake and stay a little fresh. Otherwise I think it's easy to, by this time, to start feeling a bit drowsy. All right. I'm going to try and keep an eye out on the chat box as well, but if there's something that I don't see, if somebody can just unmute their mic and just alert me, please. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about a very, very important concept. So as you saw in the title, what do you think we're going to talk about? Does anybody remember the title? Anybody pay attention to the title?
Find him as you think of him?
Yeah, that was the title. Yes,
yeah.
That's right. So somebody's just mentioned, yes, Husnul Dhan. So we're going to talk about the Hadith Qudsi, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am as my slave thinks of me. Now this statement, I'm not narrating the entire hadith, so due to time constraints, I'm just going to try and be brief. But this statement, I am as my slave thinks of me, this is a statement that can change our lives. It can change our perspective, and it can change the way we approach different matters in our life, and how we our attitude towards any given situation in our life. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, I'm as my slave thinks of me. So we will find Allah as we think of him, and we will find a situation as we with the kind of perception we have of that situation. So what we're being encouraged to do here is to think positively, and to think positively of Allah. Of course, everything that happens in our life is orchestrated, you could say, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Nothing happens without Allah's permission or Allah's will. And so if you remember last time when we spoke about forgiveness, remember it was almost as if we took out the two people in the equation. So there's two people who have a situation between themselves, and it's almost like Allah removes the other person from the equation, and it becomes about you and Allah, right? It becomes a transaction between you and Allah. It's almost like Allah's taking your focus away from the acute situation that you're in to a much bigger and more important concept or situation, and that is your connection with Allah, or your relationship with Allah. Similarly, when we talk about anything that we are experiencing in our life, can everybody please mute their mics? Just another reminder. any situation that we are experiencing, if we were to take our focus away from that particular situation for a little while, and focus on our connection with Allah and our relationship with Allah, and how we think of Allah and how we see Allah, that will completely change the way you approach a situation or how you react towards any given situation in your life. And so again, like I said, that we take our focus away from the actual thing that we're focusing on, because our focus is sometimes a bit shallow and superficial. And like I keep saying, keep focusing on your akhirah. If you focus on your akhirah, everything just becomes just much easier to deal with, much easier to understand and handle. Okay, so in terms of knowing Allah, and in terms of if we were to look at this concept and see how it's going to help us navigate through life, and how it's going to help us navigate through the storms of life. So we're talking about husnul dhanni billah, having good hope and good expectation in Allah, to help us get through our life, to help us get through the different waves and storms in our life, how to ride the storm with good hope in Allah. And this of course applies to every situation. So it might be a situation that seems to you to be a negative situation. For example, it could be about death, it could be about loss, it could be something very serious and very severe. Any situation, you can apply this exact concept to any situation that you are in. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 3 aspects of having husnul dhanni billah. What does this concept mean? How do we apply this to our lives? And what effect does it have on our lives? Okay. Does anybody want to say anything before I carry on? I've already mentioned it, but what does husnul dhanni billah mean?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Having good expectation of Allah.
Yes, excellent. Yes, very good. So it's having a good opinion of Allah, and like the sister said, having good expectation from Allah, good hope, expectation, having a good opinion of Allah. Okay, so I'm going to give you an analogy that's going to help us understand what we're trying to say here. Okay. Can everyone please make sure that your mics are muted? Okay. So imagine that your mom asks you to get into the car, and she starts driving. Okay, so you're sitting next to your mom and she starts driving, and you turn around and you ask her, where are we going? And she says she doesn't want to tell you where we're going, and you'll just have to wait and see where we're going. And she keeps driving. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to do something. Okay. So I've tried to mute everyone now, and I think you guys can unmute yourselves when you want to speak. Okay, so just make sure you don't unmute yourselves unless you want to answer. Okay. I'm sorry about these admin interruptions. Okay, so you're in the car, and you're driving in this car with your mom, and she's not telling you where she's going, and you just, you're just sitting next to her and carrying on. Now, how many of you in this situation are going to start panicking, or you're going to start making a phone call, an SOS phone call to try and, say that, can somebody please get me out of this car? Or, basically get into a panic and start worrying about, what's happening. How many of you would do that? That's right. So somebody just said that you trust your mom, so you wouldn't panic, right? Even if she doesn't tell you where you're going, you're just going to keep quiet and just carry on because this is your mother. Other than trusting your mother, what else is it that is helping you to stay calm and it's not causing you to panic? That's right. Very good. So we know that she's not going to harm us, right? We know that whatever it is, wherever she's going, you just feel safe because you know that this is your mom. She loves you. She cares about you. She's not going to hurt you. She's not going to harm you. And that's right. You know, she's your well-wisher. She's got your best interest at heart. And you're confident that, okay, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm all right because I'm in good hands, right? Okay. So even though you don't know the route, you don't know the destination, you have no idea where you're going and how long you're going to be gone for, but you are comfortable. And yes, that's right. And maybe there's a reason she's not telling you, and you have a close relationship. I mean, all these things are very, very important things to think about, okay? So, whoever is in the meeting right now, please try and read what's in the chat box, because these are all very important points to consider and to think about and to think deeply about them. So even though you don't know the destination, you don't know the time that it's going to take to get to the destination and get back, you don't know the route, you don't know where you are going, but you are comfortable and you don't panic and you don't get scared, and you feel confident and happy and safe, right? And this is because we know our mom, right? Now, how does this connect to Allah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes us in our lives, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He, we go through certain situations in our life. We go through certain storms in our life. We go through ups and downs in our life. And the driver of our lives is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? He's you could say, He's orchestrating, or He's the one deciding what direction our life is going in. And yet, many of us, when we suddenly go through a turn in our life, or our life takes a certain twist, or it goes up or it goes down, what do? Do we feel safe and relax? Yes, exactly. We worry. Not just worry, we panic. We panic and we get extremely stressed and we get extremely worried. To the point where, okay, I gave you the example of, making a phone call, an SOS phone call, like to the police or something, when you're in the car with your mom, which you wouldn't do. But what we start doing is we start running to different people, right? We start going here, we start going there, we start panicking, we start trying to knock different doors to try and find out what's going on, why is this happening to me, how do I stop this from happening, what do I do? And one of the reasons that this is happening, what do you think is the reason this is happening? Why do you think we behave like this with Allah? That's right. So we lack tawakkul, we don't trust Allah, but the main thing is what Zulaykha said, we don't know Allah. Okay, we have got such weak and poor understanding of who Allah is, of what Allah is capable of Allah's authority, Allah's power, Allah's knowledge. We know so little and understand so little about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this is what happens, you know. Our world just falls apart, and we just think that's it, you know. We're doomed, we're going to be lost, we're heading for disaster, right? Because this is the amount of faith or understanding we have. And so this all goes back to what I keep saying in so many different you know, circles that we've done, where we keep saying that we need to try and learn more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to study the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we need to understand who our Rabb is, who our Creator is. And that's how that is one of the main things that will help us to navigate through these situations. By understanding who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, that's what will help us to you know, to handle and approach these kind of situations better. I'm going to give you another example, another analogy, which I think is really important for us to understand, because this is another problem that we have when we're going through different situations in our life. Okay. Now I know we have a number of surgeons on this group who are attending the dars today. So, but do we have any brain surgeons here? I know we have obstetricians and gynecologists here. I'm guessing we don't have any brain surgeons, yeah? Okay, so I mean, I'm trying to think of the most complicated kind of procedure, you know, that anyone would have to study and do. And I'm sure that brain surgeons, you know, would have spent years and years studying and getting to, you know, where they have got to in terms of, you know, their knowledge and their skill in performing a procedure like that. Okay, so imagine that for some reason, la samahallah, that you're going through, let's say you've had an accident, okay, and you are in urgent need of a procedure on your brain. And so the surgeon comes in and he says that we need to perform a 2-hour-long procedure to fix this, the problem that you've had due to this accident or whatever, okay? Now, would you say to this surgeon, well, I'm not going to allow you to do this procedure until I understand 100% what you're going to do and why you're going to do it? Would any of us do that? No, exactly. That would be foolish, right? That would be suicidal, because now we're trying to match up to this brain surgeon who has, like I said, he's probably spent like 15 years at least, if not more, trying to get to where he is, trying to, you know, master this particular skill that he has, right? So number one, it would be arrogant for us to like now say to him that, you know, I need to understand exactly what you're planning to do. And secondly, it would be silly, it would be suicidal, because we're most likely we're not even going to understand half of what he's going to say to us, right? Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he does certain things in our life, okay, and we go through certain situations in our life, and we feel as humans that we have the right, or it is our right or our duty to understand everything that is happening, to understand why it's happening, how it's happening, how long it's going to be happening for. And this is exactly the foolishness that we do when we go through any situation in our life. We want to understand it properly. We want to grasp, you know, all aspects of it. This is exactly how silly it would be, because we're trying to understand something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided to do. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obviously, you know, And Allah is above all analogies, right? Allah is above all examples or analogies. So although I'm using this as an example, this is a weak example, because if you wanted, you could study for, I don't know, 20 years and become a brain surgeon, right? You could at least even do that. But none of us can get the knowledge and the wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ever, right? So it is extremely naive of us to think that when something happens in our life, it shouldn't be happening unless we 100% understand why it's happening and how it can happen, right? This is extremely arrogant and naive of us to even think that. And like I said, if we were to understand that Allah is Al-Basir, He is Al-Alim, He is Al-Khabir, He is Al-Latif, He is so closely aware of us and what is best for us. Allah says in the Quran, Allahu waliyul ladhina amanu, right? Allah is the wali, the protector, you could say, or the friend of the believer. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He cares more for us than anyone else, right? We were talking about the mother, for example. If we have that kind of trust in our mother, how much more trust should we have in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deciding where our life goes and how it goes? This is where we need to humble ourselves and we need to understand. If, for example, we go back to the example of the surgeon, right? There are two reasons why you would question the surgeon, or you would struggle to trust the surgeon. Can anyone tell me what you think would cause you to shake in your confidence with a surgeon? That's right. Okay. Why would you be scared for your life? And why would you be scared to put your life in his hands? Okay. Yes. Okay. He is a human and errors can happen, but something more specific. Okay, that's very good. Now, going back to the previous point that some people are saying, yes. So when somebody said ignorant of his ability, so perhaps his qualifications are, you're not sure about his qualifications. Okay, so you're thinking that this guy is not as qualified as he says he is, or you're doubtful about his qualifications. Right? So now you're going to be a bit scared about putting yourself or your loved one in his hands, because now you're questioning his qualifications and you're scared that he might go and mess things up because he doesn't really know what he's doing. The second thing that somebody said about not caring for us, so that I would say is where you start thinking, yes, that's right, very good, intentions for our well-being. So a lot of the times, doctors have revenue targets, for example, right? So he might be doing this not with your best interest at heart, but he's doing it because he needs to bring in revenue into the organization that he works for example, right? So you might not need a procedure, but he says you need the procedure because he needs to bring in revenue. So you have these two factors, right? One is where you doubt his qualifications, and two is you doubt his intention. So you don't know that, is he doing this genuinely because you need it, or is he doing this for some other personal reason or for a personal gain? Okay. Now, if we were again to go back, and like I said, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above all analogies. No matter how weak our iman is, I think we all understand and agree that we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has knowledge, right? We know that Allah knows what is best for us, and he knows why certain things are happening to us, right? So we have no doubt in Allah's knowledge. Okay, so the first point is void. The second point, where you don't trust the doctor's intentions, if we were to apply this, this is where husnul dhanni billah comes in. That do you think that Allah wants to harm you? Do you think that Allah wants to do something to you that will be a bad thing for you? Do you think that Allah wants to hurt you? And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's, this is where husnul dhanni billah comes in. So no matter what situation we go through, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want to hurt us. Allah does not want to harm us. And the only interest that Allah has is for us, is for our benefit, right? And we go back to the example, do you remember yesterday's example of the baby getting the shot, right? So we had the baby, then we had the 10-year-old, and then we had the adult, right? And we said that all three of them, they all went through the same prick and the same pain, but their response was different. And their response was different based on their basira, or their understanding, right? And so the first one, that's the baby, we said that the baby just feels the pain. That's all he feels. And so he brings the roof down, right? He screams and he shouts and he cries because all he feels is the pain. He just feels the prick. And he doesn't understand anything else, and he doesn't know anything else. And we need to ask ourselves, how many of us are that baby? How many of us go through a storm or a wave, and we just can't ride the wave, and we just feel the pain? That's all we feel. And we can't think good thoughts about Allah. I mean, I know people, for example, who've been through small tests, really small tests. I mean, a test is a test, yes, but still, something small. And they said to me, that I was so angry that I didn't do my salah. The next salah that came up after that situation came, they said, I just didn't do my salah because I was so angry that why did this happen to me? And a lot of us, we do fall into these situations. A lot of us question when something hits us hard. We question, why me? Why did this happen to me? And of course, it's because of a lack of understanding who Allah is. And the best of us, when the going gets tough, it is really difficult to keep your focus on Allah and on your akhirah, and to keep your focus on Allah's words. عَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. That verily there may be something that you hate, but it is good for you. And there may be something that you love, but it is bad for you. And Allah knows and you do not know. So a lot of us, we just see the pain in our situation and we can't look beyond that. Our focus is just, I didn't get what I wanted. Things didn't go my way. And all our anger is directed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa na'udhu billahi min dhalik. A lot of us will say, I've been making dua for this for years. Or we'll say, like I said, why me? Why did this have to happen to me? Now, when we look at the 10-year-old and the 10-year-old's response with the jab, does anybody remember what we said? What is the 10-year-old's response? Yes, that's right. So they cry, but they're not angry. and they have some understanding. So you've had a chat with them, so they know that, okay, I'm not going to enjoy this and it's going to hurt, but it's ultimately for my benefit. So this level where you look slightly beyond the pain, where you feel the pain, but you understand that I have to accept this pain, or I know I'm going to go through this pain to get something or to get somewhere. This level is called sabr. And sabr is the minimum of what we need to have as a believer when we ride the wave or we go through any situation in our life, right? And sabr means that you never complain against Allah. Complaining against Allah is where you are saying negative things like, why me? Why did Allah do this to me? Or this isn't fair. You have resentment, you have bitterness, you're rejecting your fate or rejecting your situation. That is complaining against Allah, and we can't complain against Allah, right? So as believers, if we have sabr, we complain to Allah, okay? And by the way, if any of you have ever been through that other situation, which I said we shouldn't have, then Allah's doors of forgiveness are always open. So you can make istighfar, you can make tawbah, and you can fix that attitude. So you shouldn't feel that if I've done that I've failed. So you can always make tawbah and istighfar and come back. Anyway, so we complain to Allah. So the child, the 10-year-old, she or he might come to you and say, oh, it hurts, and what can I do? I needed to get this, so I've got it, but how do I feel better? And you can help navigate those feelings, right? So that is the minimum level that we need to have when we are going through any situation. The highest level is the level of the adult. So what did we say the adult does when they get the shot? So you got your COVID shot and your arm's going to be in extreme pain for the next 3 days. But when you've got your shot, what do you say to the nurse? Yeah, other than acceptance? Yeah, exactly. You're thankful, right? You actually thank the person who pricked you because you know exactly what you're getting and why you're getting it. You're grateful for it. And this is the highest level that a believer can reach in terms of going through any difficulty, and that is rida, right? Rida, which is complete contentment with Allah's decree. And you can extend that to gratitude, right? But you can't reach this level or have this level when going through a hardship without understanding who Allah is and without understanding what Allah is doing. When I say understanding what Allah is doing, I don't mean the intricacies of what you are going through, not the ins and outs of the situation that you're in, because that is, again, like asking a brain surgeon to explain to you exactly what the procedure is going to be before having it, right? So we can't understand all the workings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not the only one whose situation that Allah is deciding or managing. It's all of creation. But what I mean is understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best what is best for me. He knows why this is happening to me and how this should be happening to me. When you have that understanding, when you have an understanding of who Allah is, when you have an understanding of the comprehensiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge, you will thank Allah for your situation, whatever that situation might be. We so many of us, we find ourselves in a situation and we wish we were not in that situation. We wish we could get out of that situation. And we wish that we didn't have to experience that certain experience, right? And you wish that whatever that was that you were going through, you just wish you could there was a stop button, right? And you could have just stopped it all there and then. But like I said, you've all heard of you grow through what you go through, right? And for changes to happen within us, even as human beings, right? It needs repetition and it needs persistence. Change and growth does not happen instantly, okay? So for example, a woman who's pregnant, she is going to carry the baby for 9 months before she gives birth, right? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He could have made that gestation period 9 days long, right? If Allah wanted, He could cause the baby to be formed and complete and ready for birth in 9 days. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that it will take 9 months. Again, for example, I don't know how many of you, like to go into the countryside and look at trees, and especially old trees. In the UK, of course, we have these like old oak trees, right? They take years and years and years to get to where they are, right? I mean, a lot of trees are like 100 years old. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He could have made the tree, reach its full size in 10 days, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do that. But it takes time for it to get to where it is. Similarly, like the story of Hajar alayhi salam. I've always been so fascinated by that. I mean, that would be like about 3 lectures just to reflect on all the lessons from her story. But the thing that I want to talk about today is, okay, alhamdulillah, somebody else likes trees as well. Hajar alayhi salam, right? She can't find water, so she goes to Safa. She can't find anything there. So she goes to Marwa. She can't find anything there. Now, normally, you would have thought that, she's been on top of one of the mountains. She's been on top of the other. And she should come back now, right? And she should say, well, I tried, and I didn't find anything. But what does she do? She repeats and she persists. And she goes back to Safa, and she goes back to Marwa. And she goes back to Safa, and she goes back to Marwa. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He could have given her the water instantly, right? He could have given it to her the first time she goes. But like I said, growth, it requires repetition and it requires persistence. It requires time. It's with time, and it's with having to go through certain situations for a certain period of time in a certain way that we go through those changes and that growth within us. We go through it's certain things within us that change with time, that don't happen instantly. Life isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And it requires endurance, and endurance requires time. So when you go through a situation, to be sad in a certain situation, is it wrong to be sad if you're going through a hardship? Because we talked about rida, right? No. The Prophet ﷺ, he went through a period which is known as the year of grief, right? He was very, very sad during that year. So being sad is a normal human emotion. what is it that is not right when you're going through a hardship? What is not acceptable, or what is not allowed? Sadness is allowed. Yeah, it's okay to be sad. You're a human being. You will be sad. Excellent. Yes. Despair. Despair, giving up hope. This is something that is advised against, right? And despair is from shaitan, right? Losing hope is from shaitan. So you can be sad, which is a natural human emotion, but you don't lose hope. You don't go down to the level of despair where you've completely given up now. Not knowing the solution or the way out of a situation and still being peaceful and calm and accepting it and being patient with it, that is tawakkul. That is having good expectation and good hope in Allah. Because whatever you're going through, the thing that is keeping you calm and that's keeping you peaceful and happy and content is your knowledge and your understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge of my affairs, and no matter how difficult and how twisted my situation seems, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will get me to the end. He will get me to the finish line. He's put me in this situation and He will take me out of the situation. And that is having husnul dhanni billah and having tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that was really the concept that I wanted to to share with you guys today, to just understand that whatever is happening to us, wherever our life is going, wherever the twists and turns of our life are taking us, remember that the one who is in charge of your life and your affairs is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can't put your affairs in the hands of anyone more capable than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no one who can discharge this duty or this this job of taking your life from A to B to C to D. No one can do this better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have put your affairs in the hands of the most capable, and you have to understand that, and you have to internalize that, so that whatever happens, you are always smiling and you're happy and you're content. So it might be a pleasant situation, it might be an unpleasant situation, but you smile through it all, because it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is taking your life through these different twists and turns. So when you speak to someone or you confide in someone about your situation, as long as you are doing it for support, and it's not so much complaining to them, but it is like I said, more for support and to help you to understand your situation or to give you some consolation, then that's okay, inshallah. Especially if you go to someone who you feel can give you that kind of support, and someone who's close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has a good understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then in the sense that someone who has a good understanding of their deen, etc., then that is okay, inshallah. Allah knows best. So normally I had thought that because these are the odd nights and these are some of the best nights that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with, and it is such a huge blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enabled us to come this far. I just wanted to share a few things about Laylatul Qadr as well, but as far as the topic for tonight is concerned, that's all I wanted to say to you, and I'm really sorry I've gone over the time again. But I wanted to say a few things about Laylatul Qadr. And if you have any other questions about what we were talking about just now, then please feel free to, ask in the chat box. Yeah, just to wrap up, the point that we were talking about is, I think that's basically what I was just trying to say, is that, trust in Allah, and of course you trust in Allah more than you would trust your mom, more than you would trust your husband or any other, person who's close to you, who you love and trust. You would trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than any of them. And so, just trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be patient with whatever is happening and be content. So try to rise your level from sabr to rida, and try to, be satisfied with Allah's decree. Whatever your situation is, be satisfied and content with it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you for it. Okay. So I'm going to come back to tackle some of the comments and questions in a little while. So about Laylatul Qadr, there's the hadith which says, "Man qama Laylatul Qadr imanan wa ihtisaban, ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi." So I was going to say to you guys that standing and praying or spending this night in ibadah, this is, to do this with iman. This is your job, right? What is up to you is to do this with iman, hoping for the reward in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ihtisab, this is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? In the sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept it and reward it for you, and He will, this is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept you or to count you amongst those who stood with iman and hoping for their reward from Allah, and Allah will reward you for that. The other thing I wanted to mention about Laylatul Qadr, I was going to say that, as you all know, Laylatul Qadr is a moving target, right? So this is something that we try and look for throughout the 10 nights, specifically on the odd nights, but we try and look for it on all the nights. And there's no, of course there are narrations which say that the Sahaba, they witnessed it on different nights, but from what it seems to be the strongest understanding is that it is something that moves. So look for it, and don't become complacent in looking for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قُلْ بِفَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَبِرَحْمَتِهِ فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا هُوَ خَيْرٌ مِمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. Allah says, say, in the bounty of Allah and in His mercy, therein let them rejoice. That is better than what they amass. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that His mercy and His bounty is better than everything else that you have. And if you actually actualize this statement, right, and you think about everything that you have, your car, your home, your children, your families, your wealth, maybe you own a home or a shop or a plane or a helicopter or a palace or everything that you own, right? These are big things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying His mercy and His bounty is better than everything that you own. So to try and aim to earn Allah's blessing and His bounty and His mercy in these nights, it's better than everything else. Everything else that you have has a price tag. Allah's bounty and Allah's mercy is priceless, right? And that is really what we should be chasing, and that is really what we should be striving for. And lastly, I just wanted to encourage you and remind you all, as much as you can, keep making the dua that the Prophet ﷺ advised Aisha radiallahu anha to make. Allahumma innaka afoon tuhibbul afwa fa'afu anni. Like I said previously as well, that this is the thing that we all need and we all want for our salvation, right? None of us will get into Jannah based on our actions unless Allah has mercy on us. And none of us will get into Jannah unless we are forgiven for all our sins. And we sin day and night, right? None of us can say that we don't have any sins. We have so many sins. We have so many mistakes and so many shortcomings. And this is a very, very important dua that you should not miss out. And make it as much as you can. Allahumma innaka afoon tuhibbul afwa fa'afu anni. So that's all basically what I wanted to share with you today. Inshallah, I'll see you again next, not tomorrow, the day after. So some sisters suffer in silence because they feel that it's from sabr. So yeah, like I said, the thing is that we all have different levels of iman, right? And our iman goes up and down. And none of us need to put our iman to test. So sometimes you might be going through a hardship and your iman is not, it's not at a very high level where you have reached the level of rida, for example, and you're really struggling with something that you're going through. So rather than become sinful by being ungrateful to Allah or complaining to Allah or complaining against Allah or uttering things which might be displeasing to Allah, it is better that we speak to someone and get some kind of support, some kind of advice which will actually help us to ride the storm in a positive way, having a good opinion of Allah, having good hope in Allah, and that way, you ride the storm with sabr, and maybe you can try and elevate your understanding to rida through support from from people around you. So it's always good to speak to someone. It's always good to ask someone rather than just try and get through things yourself. Especially if you really feel you are struggling, then you should speak. You should ask, and you shouldn't hold back. Allah knows best. Barakallahu feekum, and Jazakallahu Khairan for taking the time out to join us, and I hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts this from us, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts your ibadah tonight. And if it is the night of Qadr, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala write us amongst those who stood with iman and ihtisab. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from us, forgive us our sins, and give us a place in paradise and save us from the fire. Jazakumullahu khairan for all of your du'as and your lovely messages. So I'm going to end the meeting, inshallah, and I hope to see you all again in a day after tomorrow, inshallah, in a couple of days. So thank you again for joining us, and may Allah accept from us all. Okay, inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.